Hey everybody, what is going on, and welcome into the first episode of the Outside the Arc College Basketball Podcast. My name is Miles. I'm going to be the host of this podcast. I am just a high school student with a passion for covering and talking about college basketball, so I've done some radio shows with baseball in the past, but now baseball season's over and it's fully into college basketball season, so I figured I'd start my own podcast about college basketball. This is going to be a weekly podcast that is going to be coming out either Sundays or Mondays. Typically all the games, the biggest games are on Saturdays, so it'll probably come out on Sundays if the Sunday slate is weak, it'll come out on Sunday. If there's good games on Sunday, I'll probably get it out on Monday. Maybe once in a while if I'm busy or something, I'll get it out on Tuesday, but it'll be out. I'll be doing my best to get it out every single week, for you guys to listen to, and for my own enjoyment too. I love doing this. Having listeners is just an added bonus. I love doing this, love talking about it. Yeah, so that'll be fun for me. So I'm going to try to get this one out. I'm going to try to get this podcast set up with iTunes pretty soon. I'm recording this today on Monday the 11th, and the season starts on Friday the 14th. So none of the really big games are really there's a couple of good games, but the real big heavy hitters are starting Monday, Tuesday the 17th and the 18th with the college basketball tip-off, with the Champions Classic and, games like that coming out on next Tuesday, the 18th, a week from today. So I'm going to try to get this out hopefully before the season starts on Thursday. But if I don't get it out till Friday or Saturday, there's not a lot of games on Saturday, so one day of Friday where a lot of teams are playing cupcakes, I don't think it should be a huge issue. But I am going to just work on getting this out and working on getting this every single week. So it should be fun, definitely. As I said, my name is Miles, so this episode, basically, I'm just going to break down the top 25 teams. Usually I'll try to have more, kind of like feature pieces, in terms of like what I'm going to be putting out every week. I'm not going to be, I just want to get this out and, try to be original with what I do. So just for today, I'm just going to break down the AP top 25 poll, just give my thoughts, what I think each of these teams is capable of. So obviously that brings us to the first team in the rankings, and that's obviously Kentucky. Personally, I wouldn't put Kentucky as my number one team in the country. I think Duke is a better team than them in terms of what I think they can do this year. But I don't have a problem with it. Obviously, this team is really, really stacked in terms of a lot of ways. So basically, the team lost Julius Randle and James Young last year to the draft, both pretty high draft picks. But obviously, John Calipari doesn't have an issue bringing in elite talent. He got Karl Towns Jr., who I think is going to be an absolute stud, Trey Lyles, and then Devin Booker and Tyler Ulis. Watching the scrimmage against Georgetown the other night, Georgetown College in Kentucky, I thought the Harrison twins looked really good, and I thought everyone looked really good. Dakari Johnson, definitely, I think he's due for a real breakout year. Now that he's going to have some more playing time, I think. Especially if Coach Cal, I'm not sure, maybe he's decided to stay away from the rotation system, but you've got three really talented big men in Willie Cauley-Stein, Karl Anthony Towns, and Dakari Johnson, and that's not even including Trey Lyles or Marcus Lee, who will probably have to play more of a 4 role. But yeah, I think this team has a lot of players, obviously. If I'm going down the list right now, thinking of players I think can play in the NBA one day, you've got the Harrison twins, Andrew and Aaron. You've got Karl Anthony Towns, Alex Poythress, and Willie Cauley-Stein, so that's 5. I think Trey Lyles and Dakari Johnson both have a chance, so that's 7. And I wouldn't count out Tyler Ulis, Devin Booker, and Marcus Lee. So you potentially have 10 NBA players on this roster. Obviously, I don't want to hear the whole, they could beat an NBA team, because they wouldn't. They play the Sixers and they get stomped, because this is a bunch of young guys that are just learning to mesh together. But obviously this team is very talented. They brought back players last year that you might have expected to go off into the NBA, like the Harrison twins, Willie Cauley-Stein, Alex Poythress. So it's good to see Coach Calipari, bringing his guys back. Playing in the SEC, their only real competitor, I think, is going to be Florida. Obviously, Arkansas, LSU. I think Georgia can make a stand this year, but I don't really think it's going to be tough. Excuse me. I really think this is going to be a pretty easy season in the SEC for the Wildcats. They have the away game against Florida and the home game, so they got the home and home with Florida, but they should be able to do that. They lost to Arkansas on the road last year. They avoid them on the road this year. Georgia's a home game. They've got LSU on the road, so I think they've gotten some of the tough teams at home. They're gonna have, they have a couple tough games in the conference slate, but I think they should. I think they'll win. They've got maybe I'm not sure how many, maybe 14, 15, 16 conference games. Let me count one, two, three. I'm not going to count, but if they have 18 conference games, I'd expect them to win 14 of them at least. Barring an upset here and there. But what really is interesting is the non-conference schedule. Obviously, you've got Kansas and Indianapolis in the Champions Classic, and that's going to be a really good game. Providence at Rupp Arena is no pushover. They host UNC. That last three before conference play, UNC at home, UCLA in Chicago, and visiting Louisville are probably going to be their toughest three-game stretch of the season. All three of those teams are tournament teams, in my opinion, so it's going to be really tough for Kentucky to get through that. And then they've also got Texas at home in the Big 12 SEC Challenge, probably the toughest game of the Challenge this year, maybe if you're not counting the Arkansas-Iowa State game, but that's a top 10 team in Texas. This is going to be, maybe not top 10, but top 15. So this is going to be a really tough season for the Wildcats. But if there's any team that can, get through this kind of schedule like this, I definitely think the Wildcats are one of the teams that can do it. So speaking of that, I'm going to move over to the team that was ranked second in the AP poll, and that's the other Wildcats, the Arizona Wildcats. So coming off the Elite Eight appearance last year, where they lost to Wisconsin, it's a lot to ask of a team like Arizona, especially a team that lost so much. Nick Johnson's gone. Aaron Gordon is gone. But I thought they got some pretty good players in. Stanley Johnson obviously is going to have a huge impact. He is really going to be a really huge impact player right away for this team. Definitely something to watch for. And then guys like Craig Victor, definitely maybe not, and Parker Jackson Cartwright, maybe not elite recruits that you think about in like top 5 guys, 5-star guys, but definitely guys that can have a noticeable impact on this program. So it'll be good for Sean Miller to get some more guys. He also brought in Kadeem Allen, who was the National Junior College Player of the Year, but he can't play this season. And Ryan Anderson, who transferred from Boston College, he also can't play this season. So he's set up well for to go into the years beyond. But this team is definitely really talented. They've already brought in tons of talented guys for the 2015 class. So this team is really, I think this team can be really good. Speaking of the schedule, Maui Invitational is tough. There's Kansas State in the pool, Missouri, Purdue. So there's a lot of, high major Power 5 teams that can make a stand here. But other than that, they got Michigan at home. They make 2 true road games at Texas El Paso, UTEP, and at Nevada, Las Vegas, UNLV. Neither of those teams are as good as they were last year, in my opinion. I think UTEP has a chance to make some noise, and maybe UNLV does too, but I don't think either of those teams are real tournament teams if you look at them right now. Michigan at home is going to be a tough game, but in the end, you've got the home game, so that's going to make a difference. And then, if I'm not mistaken, the Pac-12 plays a home and away with everybody. So, or maybe they don't, because that would be too many games. Yeah, I'm not totally sure what the scheduling goes. So that'll be an interesting series to see. And then, obviously, they've got some tough games. They've got some tough games in the schedule. Playing Utah twice will be tough. Playing Oregon twice. I know Oregon's not the same. Playing UCLA. They've only got UCLA at home, so that's pretty good. But anyway, this team really is bringing in a lot this year, definitely. I think in terms of what they can do. Brandon Ashley, coming off the injury, he can definitely, I think, make an impact. Someone I want to see make a lot of impact this year is Gabe York. I really think if you give him the chance to what he can do, I think he can really turn up. And then Caleb Tarczewski, obviously, is a guy who I've been watching closely since he was a 5-star recruit. He definitely has a chance to make a big impact. And then you've obviously got T.J. McConnell and Rhonda Hollis-Jefferson, who both are really talented players in their own right that have a chance to be really good. But as I said, I think Gabe York could really be the X factor for this team in terms of what they're able to do this year. I think in terms of guard depth, he's a really big player. But obviously, you've got a pretty good core, and I think Stanley Johnson, if it wasn't for Jaleel Okafor, he would be the favorite for National Freshman of the Year and would probably be a first-round, probably lottery selection in the NBA draft. So Arizona, Pac-12 champions, in my opinion, should have no issue getting there. Really, really talented team. I don't think they're necessarily, I think they can make the Final Four, honestly, they've got some real talent. They've got real experience in the coaching staff. So they're a good team. There's no denying that at all. Arizona really has a chance to go far this year, and that's what I expect them to do. They went to the Elite Eight last season. That's pretty much how I expect. So, onto the team that was ranked third in the AP poll. That's Wisconsin. Wisconsin lost 2 players from last year's team. Ben Brust was obviously a big loss. He's 12.8 points per game. He was a starter. But that should open more time for Frank the Tank, Frank Kaminsky, and Sam Decker. So, I think definitely it might be addition by subtraction. It gives time to some of their more promising guys, in what they can do. And then Zach Bohannon also graduated, although he only played 1.9 minutes per game, so that's not really a big loss at all. A guy I thought would be on track for breakout was Duje Ducan, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. But he's suspended for the first 2 games of the year. They're not really big games, Northern Kentucky and Chattanooga, UT Chattanooga. But I think he could definitely make an impact this year. Nigel Hayes, obviously, has a chance to make some more noise. Travion Jackson, definitely. But it's obviously the big two-headed monster, Frank Kaminsky and Sam Decker. I think Frank the Tank, I didn't even know who he was before the start of last season, I'm going to be completely honest, and I'm sure a lot of college basketball fans didn't either. But I'm pretty sure he has a chance to make a real impact this year in terms of what he can do athletically and, make a real impact in terms of this team. And, he's probably, excuse me again, he's probably an early favorite to be on the first team All-American, make a real impact in terms of what he can do in the future. So I'm excited to see what Frank Kaminsky can do. Okay, now we got to take a look at the schedule. Battle for Atlantis is what sticks out to me. Here are some of the teams in that pool. Florida, Georgetown, North Carolina, UCLA, and Oklahoma. Those are all tournament teams. All teams I would not want to face at all. I think Oklahoma definitely has a chance to be really, really good definitely. So I'd like to see what all these teams can do, but that's going to be tough. And then they've got 3 true road games. They've got Marquette, Milwaukee, and California, UW-Milwaukee. UW-Milwaukee, I think they should handle. Cal, I also think they should handle, but, it's a road game against a team with a new coach, got some good players like Jabari Bird, so I wouldn't count that one out. And then Marquette. Marquette's not the same Marquette as we've always seen, but with Steve Wojciechowski, I think that's how you pronounce it, the Duke assistant. They've definitely got a chance to make some noise this year. And then 2 home games I don't pencil in as total wins. First off is next Wednesday against Green Bay. UW Green Bay is led by Kiefer Sykes. They lost Alec Brown, but that team has a chance. I think they're going to win the Horizon League easily. I thought they would win it last year too, but they flopped in the tournament, and I have my own opinions on conference tournaments, but that's something I can get into in a later episode. But Green Bay should have been in the tournament, and they would have won. I think they would have won a game in the tournament last year. I think they're just as good as they are last year. And then next Saturday, the 22nd, they've got Boise State. And Boise State has Anthony Dermich and Derek Marks. 2 guys I think are two of the best players in the Mountain West Conference. And 2 guys who are really, really talented. So none of these games will be pushovers. And then obviously the Big Ten schedule. Michigan State, Nebraska, Ohio State, Illinois, Iowa. Maybe even Indiana. The only teams I think in this conference that you can really pencil in as a true win is maybe Rutgers. Every team in the Big Ten is going to be tough to beat. So it's going to be a really tough road for Wisconsin this year, definitely. But I think they can do it. This team made the Final Four last year. They're a really talented team. And, Bo Ryan didn't pull in the greatest recruiting class of all time. He didn't even get a 4-star prospect. But he really is leading this team, I think, to a really good place. So I think they'll be contenders next year and a candidate to make the Final Four. Ranked number 4, but my preseason number 1 team is the Duke Blue Devils. I really think